They called her Anira, Nai for short. For her whole life, she was going to celebrate 2 birthdays, her own and that of the health system she was born under. Both have lived to an age that few would have taken for granted at the time she took her first breath. And at the time she took that breath, 1 minute past midnight, it was the start of her life and that of the National Health Service. Anira Thomas was the first baby born into a system of healthcare which meant her mother wasn't going to have to pay the doctors and midwives for assisting her labour in a small Welsh cottage hospital. It meant that she would benefit from free vaccinations and free medicines for all the normal childhood illnesses that would come along and which had, in the past, often signalled the end to a short life. For her mother, it meant proper healthcare too, at a time when women tended to see their middle age as the start of a decline due to poor eyesight, bad teeth, and devastating untreated injuries sustained in childbirth, if they made it through labour at all. But the National Health Service has come to mean more than just free healthcare, transformative though that has been. It is part of our modern British story. Of all the threads making up the welfare state, this is the one we have chosen to cling onto most tightly. It is the one we boast about to visitors from overseas, often with little regard for what their health system is like by comparison, because it is our automatic assumption that our NHS is the best in the world. We like to use that possessive pronoun too, our NHS. Politicians can scarcely get through a week without praising it, just in case someone doubts their commitment to our NHS. Within our NHS, there are nearly 2 million people working across the UK. There are countries smaller than our health system. There are the nurses who held the hands of the COVID patients who died alone, watching their families say goodbye over FaceTime as the ventilators kept them going. There are the doctors who made a point of examining their AIDS patients without gloves, and the princess who helped them to make a point about this devastating and misunderstood illness. There are the porters who, along with perhaps the chief executive, are the only people who really know their way around the entire hospital, and who have wheeled mothers clutching the tiny wrinkled hands of their newborns before taking the body of a 90-year-old to the mortuary. Just as we are all either going to get cancer or have someone close to us who will have it, so we all either know someone who works in the health service or are ourselves a part of this small nation. Most of us entered the world in an NHS hospital. Most of us will die under the system's care too. We know the sacrifices NHS workers make in their personal lives, in their own health, even with their very lives, to the extent that in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, we took to the streets to applaud them once a week. Yet it is not just the individual stories of those workers, doctors, nurses, managers, porters, paramedics, cleaners and receptionists that make us feel emotional and possessive about our NHS. Health workers are venerated in many countries, but we are exceptional in our love of the system, or at least in our love of what it stands for. Anira's birth wasn't the start of that story, but it was a symbol of the fight that had brought the NHS into being on the 5th of July 1948. Her mother, Edna, was engaged in her own fight that night, the fight to slow down her labour. Normally, when the nurse calls the doctor to say there's a head visible in the labour room, the first thing they tell the mother is that it is time to start pushing. But at 3 minutes to midnight on the 4th of July 1948, this doctor said something else. Edna, you need to wait. It's not long now. Don't push. Just hold on, Edna. When the hand on the clock moved past midnight, he let her get going. It had been the doctor's idea to keep Edna back. It was his idea to name the baby Anira. She should be named for the man who made this possible, he suggested to Edna as she looked for her newborn in the nursery. After the man who allowed her to be born here, for free. After Nye Bevan. Call her Anira.